What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfer tips for Game Week 29. So as always, I'm going to go through some of the popular players being put into people's teams or being taken out and give my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. So let's get into it. So let's start with Declan Rice. What we know at the moment is Mikel Arteta, after the game, said that he asked to be substituted and that it will have to be assessed before the match on Wednesday. So he is a doubt going into Game Week 29. He's currently yellow flagged. Now, he is the kind of player that's pretty much always available. So even if Arteta wasn't that positive in his press conference on Tuesday, I would still think there's probably quite a good chance that he'll start against Brighton away, and then we know he'll start Everton at home as well, because when he's fit and available, he always starts. So in normal circumstances, I would say probably just keep hold of him because he's quite a good pick for the long term. But in this particular case, if he is a doubt going into 29, and therefore there could be some reduced minutes, possibly a benching, possibly not in the squad altogether, he then also blanks in Game Week 31. So I think at that point, if you've got a spare transfer, he's probably worth selling. Now, again, I do think there's probably a good chance he starts against Brighton because that's just the kind of player he is. But with the doubts and the blank in 31, at that point he would be a sell. So wait until Tuesday, because Mikel Arteta will have another press conference, and he has been more open with information recently. I'm not saying he's going to tell you that Rice is definitely going to start, but he may well say that he's available. If he says that he still needs to be assessed, they're still waiting for info, then at that point, if you've got a spare transfer, I would probably move him on. Not because he's a bad option, but mostly because of that blank in Game Week 31. So it's a similar situation with Harry Wilson. He's yellow flagged and a doubt going into Game Week 29. Marco Silva, after the game, said that Harry Wilson at half-time said that he might need to be taken off. He wasn't taken off, and he played through to the 71st minute. Apparently, he's twisted his ankle, and they're going to have to see how he is in the next few days. Now, I'm not quite sure what to make of that, because if the injury was bad, they would have taken him off at half-time. But then has he made it worse by continuing to play? I don't know. So once again, we're going to have to wait until the press conference on Tuesday. This week, the only match on Thursday is Spurs versus Palace. So Glasner and Tudor are the only two managers we probably won't hear from before the deadline. So you will hear from Marco Silva again. The difference here is, compared to Rice, he does play in 31 and it's Burnley at home. So it's a really good fixture. And we've also got a little bit of a break after Game Week 29. So Game Week 29 deadline is Tuesday, and there's about 10 days until the next deadline. So unless Marco Silva says he's going to be out for a while, I would probably lean towards keeping him. Now again, the caveat as always, if you've got lots of transfers and you can manage Game Week 31 and maybe you can take him out and bring him back in or as a potential option for Burnley at home, that would obviously be fine. But for most people who are limited on transfers or they got bigger issues to deal with, like potentially Declan Rice, I would lean towards holding him if you've got someone that can play on your bench, because hopefully he would be back for Forest away and then Burnley at home. But we're going to have to wait until we hear from Marco Silva on Tuesday, and any updates that he gives, obviously I'll discuss in the deadline stream. So what if you do need a new cheap midfielder this week? Who should you be looking at? Basically, the list I've come up with here is exactly the same as last week, only I've taken Harry Wilson off. Because he's a doubt at the moment, you shouldn't be looking to bring him in until you get more information from Marco Silva. By the way, it hasn't stopped 176,000 FPL managers already bringing Wilson in, despite the yellow flag. He's currently the most brought midfielder. I would wait before you bring him in. If he's not an option, you're probably looking at Tavernier, Sharda, Utara, Szoboszlai, and Rayan. I think they would probably be the top five. If you haven't got Bruno Fernandes, he's an obvious pick. Brian Mbeumo is probably better than these options if you've got a bit more money to spend. But if you're going from Wilson or Rice, then you've probably got a little bit less money. So who's the best options? Tavernier is an interesting one because he started last week. I do think there was some doubts about whether or not he would because he was just back from injury, but he did start and he's on penalties as well. For 5.3 million, that's quite nice. Now, the only issue is it's a quick turnaround between 28 and 29. So he's just played on Saturday, I think it was. Yeah, Saturday, and then he's got to play again on Tuesday. There has to be some risk with his minutes. Now, for what it's worth, I think he's probably going to start. He played 80 minutes in that last game, then obviously got a little bit of a break towards the end. I think he will start again, but it's not a guarantee. But if he does, he's such good value. Brentford at home, then Burnley away. Even Man United at home in the blank in 31 is not terrible. What I would say, though, if you're someone that's already used your wild card, I probably wouldn't buy Bournemouth midfielders because the blank is Man United at home, then it's Arsenal away, Newcastle away. So the longer term fixtures are not that great. So if you're willing to take a bit of a risk on the minutes, Tavernier is probably the best option because he's on penalties. But like I said, there is some risk there. Then I quite like the Brentford midfielders still. So I know you've missed the Burnley game now, but they've still got Bournemouth away, Wolves at home, Leeds away, next 3 up until blank game week 31. And then afterwards, if you've already used your wild card, Everton at home, Fulham at home, Man United away. So they look quite good. Not much to split between Sharda and Utara. Their average minutes per start this season is both 82. Sharda's got ever so slightly more goal threat and he's more of a differential. He would probably be my pick. Last week, if I had bought a Brentford midfielder, I think I would have gone for Utara because obviously Sharda got benched the week before, so there was a slight doubt there. But now they've both started and they've both got subbed off at the same time. I'm pretty confident in their minutes being quite similar moving forward. So I think I would go for Sharda purely because of the differential nature and slightly better goal threat. They are both pretty good picks. I mean, there is a quick turnaround, so maybe one of them could be benched and Lewis Potter could play in one of those front 3 positions, but I think it'll be Sharda and Utara. If you want to go completely risk adverse, player that's going to start every single game, 90 minutes pretty much every time, then Szoboszlai is not a bad pick either. And again, if you've already used your wild card, the fixtures are quite good for a while for Liverpool, and they've got a good chance of doubling in game week 33. He played in midfield last game. He's pretty solid in terms of very rarely gets injured, always plays, always gets good minutes. It's just the underlying numbers have been a little bit disappointing so far this season. Now, I know some of that is because he's played at right back, but he still has had a lot of minutes in midfield. 0.1 expected goals per 90, 0.17 expected assists. Pretty poor. But we know from historical data of him playing in midfield in previous seasons, he is better than that. So I think he's quite a nice pick, and he takes a lot of the set pieces as well. If you're like... Basically, the reason I would look at Szoboszlai right now is that I'm looking at my team with 4 yellow flags. Now, the chances are not all of those players will miss out. But if you've got a lot of issues and lots of other transfers you're planning on making over the next few weeks, why not just get the player you don't have to worry about? So I don't think he's quite as exciting as a penalty taker in Tavernier or someone like Sharda who's got more goal threat. But you kind of know what you're getting with Szoboszlai. And I think if you want them for the long term, like 5-6 weeks, that's probably where I would look. Rayan, I've put at the bottom of the list. I still don't quite know what to make of him. I mean, it's really encouraging that he played another 90 minutes in game week 28. The minutes are looking good. The underlying numbers are not bad so far. It's just that unknown. With the other 4 players, I kind of know what I'm getting. I've seen them all play in the Premier League plenty of times. That's not the case with Rayan. So will the minutes stay where they are? Will the underlying numbers stay where they are? Or will both of those things drop down? I just don't know. And also, he's not really a long-term pick because of the fixtures. He's just... There's absolutely nothing wrong with going with Rayan. I think he probably is quite a good pick. He's just not the kind of player for my play style. I kind of want to know what I'm buying before I go there. And I'm not quite sure with Rayan. And I've seen him. He looks good. And the numbers kind of back it up. Will that level of performance continue? I just don't know. Like, he's new to the league. It wouldn't be, to me, it just wouldn't be a complete shock if at some point Rayan didn't start. Whereas if Szoboszlai didn't start, that would be a massive shock. So that's why I just can't go there with a pick like that. And also, I'm still, in the back of my mind, got game week 31, like, top of the agenda. Because it's a blank. We're going to have no bench if you're not using a chip. I don't know if I want to take a risk with a pick like Rayan. So Tavernier penalties I really like. Sharda is probably my next favourite, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of the other 3 either. So let's talk about Erling Haaland next. Another player that's yellow flag going into game week 29. Now, when Pep Guardiola was asked when Haaland would be back, he said he didn't know, which doesn't sound ideal when the next match is midweek. But there was another question that Pep was asked over the weekend, which said, do City need to start winning games more comfortably? And I won't go through the whole answer, but partway through the answer, he said Doku will be back, Haaland will be back. So I don't know if he just means when those players are back, they'll start doing better, or that they're going to be back midweek. It's hard to know. During the press conference as well, he was asked whether it was a knee injury. He said no. Then he was asked what body part it was. He didn't answer. It seems like he's not willing to give too much away when it comes to Erling Haaland. There was a journalist that said he should be back midweek, but I don't know how much stock to kind of take from that. So we will have to wait until Tuesday to see what Pep says. Obviously, if he says Haaland is fine, you just keep him for Forest at home because straight away afterwards it's West Ham away. But if we get no information or Pep says he's a doubt or he's not sure, I do think you can justify selling him. Now, on my team selection video yesterday, I was pretty keen on selling him for my team. I maybe made it sound like it was just super obvious to sell. I don't necessarily think that, because even if he misses Forest, you might have someone on your bench. Then it's West Ham away in 30. Arguably, he's the best captain that week. But if there is a good chance he misses Forest, you've got blank, West Ham away, blank, Chelsea away. To me, that just feels like a great opportunity to take him on. And even if he is back for the West Ham game and everyone captains him, yes, you might take a bit of a hit that week if you haven't got him, but the hope is that you would gain extra points in 29, 31 and 32 as well. And I think especially if you've still got your wild card left to play, there's even more reason to sell Haaland if he's a major doubt. I've got to keep reiterating that. If he's fine, there's not really a big reason to sell him. It doesn't mean you can't, by the way. If you want to go different, sell Haaland and get Salah in with the money or something like that, absolutely fine. But generally, if he is okay for Forest, most people should probably keep him. If you haven't got your wild card left, I'd be even more cautious about selling him, especially if your plan was just to hold him through the blank in game week 31, because there is a chance that City could double in game week 33. And most weeks, if Haaland is fit and available, you're going to want him. So I wouldn't be in a rush to do it. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about whether or not to sell him for a hit. I don't want to sit on the fence with this, but it really will depend on what Pep says. Like, if we think he's a small doubt but very likely to play, I don't think you can justify taking a hit. But if he's a major doubt and you're struggling with other players, your bench isn't looking good, maybe you can go ahead and do it. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm personally pretty keen on selling him if he's likely to miss game week 29. It's just a massive opportunity to go somewhere else. So let's say you do end up selling Haaland, or there's another forward that you want to sell. Who should you look to bring in? I think the top two options quite comfortably are still Thiago and Ekitike. If I didn't have either of those players, that is who I would bring in. My first priority would probably be Thiago, and then Ekitike close second. The reason that I've still got Thiago ahead is just the minutes are better. He's averaged 87 per start compared to 80 for Ekitike. And also, I don't think there's really much chance that Thiago ever gets benched. And for what it's worth, I think Ekitike will probably start 5 or 6 of the next 6 game weeks. There's just that tiny doubt that I don't really have with Thiago, plus Thiago's on penalties. So Thiago would be my first priority, then Ekitike. It's worth saying Ekitike's open play goal threat is better, but penalties would just trump it for me. So Thiago first, then Ekitike. That's fairly straightforward. If you've already got those two players and you're looking for a third forward, then I quite like Calvert-Lewin from this week. Leeds fixtures from now until the end of the season are just pretty good every week. They're not always perfect, right? They've got Palace away in 30, Man United away in 32. But as a 5 to 6 game week overview plus the rest of the season, it just does look quite good. So Sunderland at home this week, Palace away, Brentford at home, Man United away, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away is the next 6. Calvert-Lewin's goal threat, by the way, 0.42 expected goals per 90 from open play, so slightly better than Thiago, and he's on penalties, and the minutes aren't really that much of a concern either. He's averaged 86 minutes per start, so nailed on penalties, great minutes, 5.7 million. If you need someone cheap, or someone that's just not Thiago or Ekitike, I think Calvert-Lewin's my next pick. So I quite like him. Raul Jimenez is also somewhat competitive in the short term. So for someone that's looking to wildcard in 32, Fulham's fixtures are West Ham at home, Forest away, Burnley at home. That looks quite good, and he's also on penalties. The problem is, his average minutes per start this season is 77, and that includes a lot of games where Muniz wasn't even an option because he was out with injury. Now Muniz is back. The early subs are happening for Raul Jimenez quite a lot. Like, he's almost never making it. Well, he's never making it to 90 minutes anymore. So you see back in, over Christmas, game weeks 18 to 24, for an example, 90, 90, 84, 90, 87, 90, 90. Muniz comes back, 74, 59, 64, 72. So you can still look at Raul Jimenez, 6.1 million, likely to start most games on penalties. It's not bad value, but the early subs are there. And also, Fulham have just played on, why can I not remember any day that people, yeah, Sunday, of course, and they play again on Wednesday. Now, Muniz was out for quite a while, so my prediction would be that Raul Jimenez starts on Wednesday. But is there a slight chance it could be Muniz? Maybe. Again, I think it'll be Raul Jimenez, but there's just that slight doubt in the back of my mind. So I think in terms of cheap forward, I would probably buy Calvert-Lewin. Otherwise, other options are not really that great in my opinion. Like João Pedro, now you've got the Arsenal game out of the way, looks a little bit better, but it's still Villa away, Newcastle at home, Everton away, City at home, next four. Like if you had João Pedro and you've kept him through Arsenal, you're probably not selling. I completely get that. And I think that's fair, especially if you've got other issues to deal with. But I'm not sure I'd bring him in. I couldn't look at those fixtures and bring him in ahead of like Thiago or Ekitike. And I understand that Ekitike in particular is more expensive, so it might be difficult for some people to get there. But if you've got the money, he is better than João Pedro for me. So I probably wouldn't look to buy him right now. And it's a similar situation with Bowen. Like Bowen is absolutely nailed on, great minutes and also on penalties. But next three, Fulham away, City at home, Villa away. Like it's okay-ish, but it's not fixtures that I would look to bring someone in for. Again, if you've got Bowen, you've held him this long, and you've already used your wild card, then maybe you keep him because long term the fixtures for West Ham are not bad. Like you get to 32, Wolves at home, Palace away, Everton at home. But most people, I think, have saved their wild card. They're not looking long term, in which case it's hard to justify Bowen for the next 3 weeks. So for me, it's Thiago Ekitike, Calvert-Lewin, maybe Raul Jimenez on a short-term basis if you're willing to take the risk for this week. João Pedro, fine to keep. Bowen, fine to keep if you've not got a spare transfer to move them on, but I wouldn't be looking to buy them. So this could end up being the big question of the week. If you end up selling Erling Haaland, what do you do with that money? And is the right decision to buy Mo Salah? Now, let's be clear straight away. In isolation, Salah is not worth 14 million. His numbers are way down on previous seasons. They're not completely terrible. Like, it's not like he's doing nothing, but they're not great for the price. So 0.28 expected goals per 90, 0.22 expected assists. So 0.5 expected goal involvement. Like I said, not terrible, but not what you've come to expect from Salah. That's more like a Bruno Fernandes or a Wirtz level of kind of output. So is he worth 14 million? Not really. But the current kind of FPL game, and it has been like this for a few weeks, is where do you even spend the money? Let's say you sell Haaland, Cole Palmer. I've just spoke about Chelsea's fixtures for João Pedro. They're not completely awful, but they're really not great. And I don't think many people want to buy Palmer. If you've got him, you're probably keeping. But I don't think many people are going there as an option to bring in. Same with Saka. Like Saka hasn't done that well this season. And obviously he blanks in game week 31. So is Salah so terrible? Like, if you're not going Palmer, not going Saka, and you're selling Haaland, you've got a lot of money. Do you just put it in Salah? For me, I think you probably do. Like, there's lots of other good midfielders. I've already spoken about some of them in this video, like Tavernier, Sharda, etc. And I think they're all good picks, and they're all good value picks. But are they miles better than Salah? I'm not sure they are. And if I don't need to worry about the money, do I just go for the massive differential? Like in terms of transfers in this week, he's not going to be that high because people don't have a lot of spare transfers and they're not sitting there with a huge amount of money in the bank. So I kind of see it as an opportunity. If I end up selling Haaland, I've got 2 free transfers, I can get Salah, why not go for it? Like his transfers in so far this week, I know I did this on the team selection yesterday, not even 5,000 yet. Now that will probably go up if Haaland ends up being out. But Salah's going to be a huge differential with Wolves away, Spurs at home, Brighton away. Like, I'd even be tempted to captain him for the next 2 weeks. Like I said, the numbers are okay. They're just way down on before. And he's on penalties and the minutes are looking good. I've seen some people speculate about whether he'd be benched against Wolves midweek. I just don't see it at all. Especially with Wirtz likely to miss out. Because where's the creativity coming from? So I'm not even sitting here trying to justify this as a pick. He has not been good this season. I've not owned him since game week 6. And if Haaland was fit, I would not even be thinking about it. Maybe a brief thought, but I doubt I would actually bring him in. And like I said, he's not worth 14 million, but that might not matter. If there's no need for the money elsewhere, I'm just thinking, why not go for the differential? So I think he's an okay option to bring in. if you can get there without having like a really bad effect on the rest of your team. Like if you bring Salah in, then you're really struggling for money elsewhere. Just don't do it. Just not worth it. But if everything else is looking okay, you can manage the next few weeks. Differential, that's it. All this is a punt based on historical numbers and the fixtures coming up. Yes, of course, there'll be a time when Salah is completely dead as a pick in FPL. I'm just not sure we're quite there yet. He's nowhere near as good as before, but I don't think he's terrible. So I think at this point, Morgan Rogers is starting to become very frustrating for owners. It's now 3 attacking returns in the last 11 game weeks, and all of a sudden, Chelsea at home, Man United away next 2 is not looking great. I think had he got some returns over the last, 3, 4, 5 game weeks, you'd look at the next 2 saying, well, that's okay, I'll just keep him through them. He could get something. Then it's West Ham at home in 31. But it's getting harder and harder to justify him as a pick. No one should be looking to buy him right now, in my opinion. He's not a terrible pick, but I do think there are better options, as discussed earlier. What should you do if you're an owner of Morgan Rogers? Like I said last week, it always gets difficult to justify selling players the closer you get to a blank game week, and you're now even closer than you were last week. Basically, my thoughts haven't changed. If you can sell him to someone that you prefer, and you can still get 11 players out in game week 31 with no major issues, then sure, you can look at selling him. But if you're already struggling to get 11, you're already thin on transfers, etc., you probably should just hold on to him. Because the one thing you know is that he'll play every game, and the minutes are great. And I'd especially look to hold on to him if you've already used your wild card, because after West Ham in 31, it's Forest away 32, Sunderland at home in 33. That doesn't look too bad. So, yes, by all means, sell him. He's not looking fantastic right now, but we know he's capable of doing more than he has done. The underlying numbers, to be fair, are still not that great. They're actually pretty bad, I would say, and they've been like that all season, but obviously it didn't stop people bringing him in the first place. So he's not really changed as an FPL pick. He's kind of the same as what he was like a few weeks ago. So I get it's frustrating. It's difficult to hold players when they continue to blank because he's dropped in price as well overnight. But I think the only way you can really justify it is if you can manage 31, because ultimately he's got a great fixture that week and could do really well. And who knows, he might pick up 1 or 2 attacking returns over the next 2 game weeks. And if you want to sell him, go back to the midfield as I spoke about earlier. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll still have final thoughts to come tomorrow, so I'll cover any press conference information we've got up until that point. I'll also go through any questions. So if I missed anything in this one, do not panic. I'll be getting some of your questions answered in that video. Then we'll have the deadline stream at 4:30. Oh no, 4 o'clock on Tuesday, because the deadline is 6 o'clock. Of course it is, because we've got 7:30 p.m. games. So yeah, final thoughts tomorrow morning. Deadline stream at 4 p.m. UK time on Tuesday. Make sure you join me for that. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you tomorrow.